Youngstown, Ohio. What's cracking?
Hey yo, making it big, making it big.
Dream of living wealthy and making it big. Making it big.
What's up, gang? Welcome to another episode of the Grindcast. Get ready. It's a new day, and we got Money Mike Russin in the house. What's up, Russ?
What's up, Coach?
Oh, man. Glad to have you back on the Grindcast with the new studio. What do you think?
This
Versus
is
the last one, we had like a picnic table
this
and
is dope. This is
two pieces
insane.
of bread. Now, look. You like it?
Oh, I love it.
All right.
This is crazy. I feel like I'm in a broadcasting studio right now.
You are. We about to broadcast this out to the world, baby. So let's start out talking about how important you think it is. You know, you've overcome a lot of adversity, and to us it can get old, the conversation.
Right.
But to the right person, this is brand new, and they need to hear about it. When I look at you, one of the reasons why I trust you in future business moves is because I've watched you overcome adversity. It's very difficult for me to trust a person that I haven't watched go through some stuff and persevere, because I don't know what will happen if there's a little bit of chaos or
Right.
turbulence. And the one thing that I've seen in business or life, period, if you're going to level up a couple levels, there's always a little bit of turbulence, just like a plane. Mm-hmm. You know, just there's a, and I don't want to be riding with somebody that's controlling the plane. You know, maybe we can ride on the plane, but I don't want to be rolling with somebody that's controlling some of the plane if they can't make it through some turbulence. And we've watched you overcome some turbulence. And so why don't you start out and talk to us about, you know, some of the turbulence, some of the obstacles, some of the things that you've went through, adversities, how you've overcome it, what it looks like, you know, right now, and how young folks can learn from those mistakes to prevent those mistakes also, you know, because some of them, you know, we probably look at now and say, these were preventable,
Right.
you know, these mistakes. So why don't you go through, you know, the obstacles and adversities and then where you're at now?
Right. So the first one that sticks out to me is definitely school. Was getting kicked out of school. You know, that was tough for me. I was the first person. Yeah, college. I was the first person in my family to actually go to college, and that was a big deal.
Allegheny.
Yes, Allegheny College. And I made some mistakes, made some poor decisions, and they asked me to not come back, you know, halfway through my seat. So I'm one semester away from getting my degree, and they asked me to not come back. And you know, that was tough, you know, thinking in retrospect about that, being the first person to go to school. And here I am setting an example for my little brother, my little sister, other people in the family, and I get kicked out. So that's when I found AIL. And, you know, instead of getting down and you know, when I look back on that experience, I remember.
Man, I was giving you more credit. I thought you dropped out and saw the vision. You got kicked out.
I had no other choice. Right? I don't tell people the real story too much, but now I'm in a place where I feel comfortable sharing it. You know, I'm in a place where I feel comfortable sharing it. So, but you know, one of the things that stands out to me in talking about dealing with adversity is I look back and I can remember I was bawling like a baby in my mom's arms, like a little kid. The next day, I woke up, I went for a run, and I started blasting my resume online. You know, I said, screw this. I could sit around one day, 12 hours maybe. 12 hours. And the next day I said, instead of just sitting around and feeling bad for myself and crying and trying to get it, you know, I'm like, screw them. I wanted to call the dean and beg them. I'm like, screw them. So I put my resume online. Couple places called me, AIL being one of them. We went over last time how I started, but I started with AIL, and then, you know, right out of the gate with AIL, I hit a bunch of adversity. I personally recruited a lot of people from my hometown. I lost a lot of them. A lot of people that started with me aren't here anymore. You know, just two of them that stick out from like day one, Ray Salmon and Jeremiah Russin, my little brother.
Still here.
still here after 6 years. I mean, there's others that we found along the way that have been here 3, 4, 5 years, but those were the two with me at the beginning. And then, we hit some adversity in business, and where retention dropped, wasn't making money. We were just talking about this the other day. I can remember Travis, my dog, runs King of Prussia in Erie, driving 7 hours back and forth, running both offices. Him and I sitting when we were just in Erie, sitting there like almost in tears, like we can't even pay our bills. How are we supposed to run a business, right? Yeah. So I think the important lesson about that is when we were going through all that adversity to where we couldn't even pay our own car notes, mine got repoed. I was behind rent 3 or 4 months. Behind closed doors, we were busted up, we were broken, but we were able to, wipe our eyes, get excited, go out and run team meetings. Go out and run workshops, go out and run agency meetings and get people fired up and get people excited and get people bought into the vision. So another important lesson. So lesson number 1 from getting kicked out of college is respond to adversity quick. Strike back quick, fast. Don't spend too much time.
Sulking.
Yeah, feeling bad for yourself. Ain't going to solve shit sitting around crying. The second lesson is, especially if you're in leadership, you need to learn, even though it still hurts, like you're still in pain, you need to learn how to put on the right face and act the right way for the people that look up to you in business, in life, or in sports. Like if I'm the captain of my football team and I get an F on a test, I can't go to practice crying and bitching and moaning and complaining.
People are looking up to you.
People are looking up to you.
Elevate them.
Exactly. So learning how to elevate yourself. And there's been a whole lot of other adversities, coming to Pittsburgh the first time. We failed in Pittsburgh because I wasn't a good delegator. I was doing everything myself in Erie. So when I came to Pittsburgh, Erie fell apart. Had to go back, rebuild, built it up to one of the other top satellite offices in our agency, moved back to Pittsburgh, and we blew up from there. And another little bit of adversity recently that just happened was, a good friend of mine, overdosed, and his funeral's today, and this was just a couple days ago at our leadership development school. And I wanted to set, and I don't want to knock anybody else and how they deal with grief or adversity at all. That's not the point of this, but I took same thing as getting kicked out of college. I took some time. I stepped out of school. You took me for some ice cream. You said you can't feel bad if you got some ice cream in you, right? We got ice cream. We came back into LDS. We rocked LDS. Next day, executive council. Came back from executive council. Hopped right in the phone session with the team, pumping people up, meeting with Pipeline, getting pizza for everybody. Today, doing the podcast, funeral tonight, and then tomorrow I'm going out and I'm hitting the field. So, learning how to, I think the biggest lessons in dealing with adversity, man, is have a quick turnaround. I'm not saying don't process the grief. I'm not saying don't push emotions down. Deal with them, process them, but act quickly, respond quickly, and make sure that the people that are looking up to you, because I've seen how you've dealt with adversity, and that's when I texted you all the things that I was doing. I wasn't doing it to build myself up. I was saying thank you for setting the example for us on how to deal with adversity, push through, and keep going. So there's a lot of lessons to be learned. But when you look back at the career, not being able to pay bills to, now being blessed to drive a Maserati and put a big ass rock on Geneva's finger, and looking at houses and stuff like that, it's cool.
And how old is Geneva?
She's 20. She's 3 years younger than me. 24.
24 years old.
Yeah.
She's driving in Maseratis and rocking the spikes on her shoes.
Yeah, she got the lubes.
She got all kinds of Louboutins. She's a big old rock on her finger. She's doing all right.
Right.
And I told her the other day, she bet on you. And she was able to stay down and stay strong with her bet, even when you were down.
Right.
And that's a great thing to see, and more exciting to know that you guys are getting ready to enjoy an unbelievable life together.
Right.
You made 50 G's last month, and I don't know if you've worked it out yet, but September and October, if we do what I think we're going to do you have any idea what you're going to make those months?
Total between the 2 months?
Total months?
Probably worst case, 150,000.
That's what
150,000.
150,000 over 2 months.
Yeah.
Over a 60-day period.
Yeah.
Plus renewals.
Yeah.
And at 27.
And those just pop too.
Yeah. So that's 80 grand, 75,000 a month for the listener. You know, if you do that for 12 months, you know, you're talking about damn near $1 million at 27 years old. But how many people would have made it through that adversity? You know, out of 100 people to go through the same adversity, there's maybe one that'll go through that. So I want to commend you, you know, on that and stuff. What have you learned in your ability now to develop people? You know, I think you've developed a lot of people. How would you suggest to others how to develop, you know, others and get them ready for the next level? And talk to us about building relationships, because I think everybody knows, you know, the Badgers have, you know, and the Badgers, you know, we call it the money Badgers. That's Russin's group. So they got one of the best cultures, you know, in the company. How do you build a culture? How do you build relationships and stuff like that?
So starting with developing other people and getting them to the next level, these are probably my favorite topics to talk about. You know, developing other people, I think it first starts with yourself. So like I was saying before, how I've seen you handle the adversity, deaths, adversity in business, and just come back better, stronger, faster, and just more zoned in because of it. That taught me how to handle it, you know? So I think number one is modeling the way for your people and showing your people what you want to see in them, you know, because there's bosses. You see the meme all the time. There's bosses and then there's leaders, and the bosses in the back telling people to go forward, and the leaders actually out front doing it themselves. So I feel like if you want to properly develop other people, you have to show them the way. Number one, model the way for them. Number one. Number two is, I think this is so critical, and I know this is important to you as well, is one-on-one development time, where you schedule into your schedule and sit down with people, whether it's one-on-one or small groups, and develop them. So if you want to develop a leader, teaching them Maxwell, teaching them the 5 levels, the 21 laws, reading books together and analyzing books together and talking about how it applies to business, having them sit down. So like, let's say we got to have a difficult conversation with one of our employees, sitting down with the future leader in the room and saying, hey, watch me have this conversation with this person. And then next time you're going to have the conversation with this person, and I'm going to critique you on how you handled it and how and what we could do to get better. So I think number one, modeling the way. Number two, one-on-one development time. And then number three is you got to learn how to let go. And this is where I failed in Erie the first time, was I was not a good delegator. I could do everything better than everybody else, but that meant I had to do everything.
Right.
I'm doing the first, the thirds, the group, the this, the that, and running all the meetings and shit. So what happens is it completely stunts your growth, because the whole organization, the failure of the organization is completely dependent on your performance as a leader. So with me, I think true leadership is, you know, how you perform, how your team performs in crunch time, but also how your team performs when you're not there. So if we take you out of the equation, how does your team perform? I know you take me out of the equation, my team's going to grow, because they've been delegated to, they've been duplicated into. So you got to learn how to give up a little bit of control. And
a lot of it, how much of that, not for you, but for others, how much of that do you think is ego, that people wish, you know, they don't want the team to do better if you pull them out, you know what I mean, of that office or of that situation?
That's so hard for me to relate to.
Because you don't think that way.
I've never, ever. But I would say that with a vast majority of the people.
Let's say others that you've seen have a hard time developing or delegating to people. What would be their top 2 or 3 reasons why?
I got the 2 of them right off. Number 1 would be the ego. And then number 2 is the fear. The fear of they're not going to do
it right.
They're not going to do it right. You know, and the discomfort of having to sit there and watch somebody butcher something that you could do with your eyes closed and your arms tied behind your back, and just watching them obliterate it in front of your face, and then being able to having to go afterwards and say, you did this and this and this really well, but we got to work on these 4 or 5 things. So I think ego, number 1, is they don't want their people to be better than them. Yeah. Because they're afraid they'll promote themselves out of their own position, which is what you should want, but they're afraid that they're going to get passed up. Dude, if you're going to get passed up, you're just not working. You know what I mean? Like,
Amen.
You're just not working. We got this girl, Renee, who you met at the gym. You knew she was a stud right off rip. Yep. She has challenged me to work harder because her results between her personal recruiting and her business right now is challenging me to. I told her the other day. Yeah, I told her the other day. I'm like, you're challenging me to work harder because I'm seeing what you're accomplishing in the business. You know, so I think the ego for sure, and then like I said, the fear. You know, the fear of if I delegate out too much. I mean, you got to be smart with your delegation. Don't be lazy and just give shit to everybody and not work. But I think it's the fear of your people won't perform well. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Talk to us about building culture.
Building culture and relationships. So, you know, building culture is you have to identify, number one, what do you want in your culture? It's like building a vision. You have to know where you're going, why you want to be there, why it's important to everybody. It's the same thing with culture. I think that a lot of people don't know what they want their culture to look like. So they have no culture. You have to have a clear picture in your mind of what you want your culture to look like. I know what I wanted my culture to look like. I wanted it to be young. And when I say young, I don't mean age, I mean in spirit. You know what I mean? I wanted it to be young in spirit to where we have fun, where it's energetic. And I think most importantly, I wanted loyalty. You know what I mean? I wanted to have a family to where it's not just business. Like, we're a family. Like, something happens in one of our people's lives, everybody's there. Like, they swarm to the ball with that. You know, if somebody has an adversity in their life or a breakup.
So that's something you teach?
Yeah, for sure. Because, again, modeling the way, you know, my people know if anything ever happens to them personally, professionally, I'm going to be the first one there for you. No. And what I saw happening is that started being duplicated into the leaders directly underneath me. And then they duplicated that into their people. And now the whole team is, anytime something goes wrong, they're all over it. So high energy, which again, you model yourself, you know, enthusiasm, you model yourself. And then, you know, it's funny. Somebody said to me from another agency, and I didn't take this as an insult. I thought that this was a compliment. You know, they said they were looking at my team and they were like, man, you guys are like so goofy. You like, not like misfits, but like you guys are a little bit different than everybody else. I love that because to me, it causes people to play with a chip on their shoulder. You know what I'm saying? Yes. I always wanted to be a little bit different than everybody else. I never wanted to 100% fit the mold of what it should act, talk, walk, and sound like. And I think that that's how our people are. Like attracts like, and everybody knows that we're goofy because I'm goofy. So I attract goofy people. They attract more goofy people. But that causes you to play with a chip on your shoulder because it's almost like, you know, you look at this team over here and they all look like animals, but we're freaking tripling you up every single month. You know what I mean? Because you use that to motivate people to take their game to the next level. So unique. I want our culture to be unique, to be different.
I think one of the things, you know, a couple things that stick out to me about you is loyalty. You know, you model loyalty yourself, you know, so when you brought up loyalty, you know, that was one of the things on my mind anyway, you know, to talk about in coachability. So I think two things that's rare. You know, I have the shirts that say loyalty is rare, right? So, you know, it's rare where I've had an opportunity to see the level of loyalty because we win a lot. You know, we grow a lot. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I don't look forward to the moments of when we're going to have adversity, but I prepare for those things. And out of those things allows us to see who is loyal and who is not. You know, it's just like, you know, you probably didn't hope and pray to have the adversity that you had in business, but out of that, we knew Geneva's down. Right. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, when we had some adversity, we had other company, you know, years ago, trying to, you know, do everything in their power to take us out, you know, for no reason. And, you know, I even remember years even before that, I remember somebody posted something like London Bridge is falling down. You know, I'll never forget the thought that went on in my head thinking like, do you have any idea of who you're typing that about? Right. Like, we don't fall down. Mm-mm. You know what I mean? We blow up from stuff like this. And it's giving glory to God in the relationship that we have with God, not a personal thing, but because of the relationship with God, having the confidence of knowing that there will be nothing, no weapon, formed against us that'll prosper. Everything is going to be done to elevate us. And during that period, we had some people jump off the ship. Mm-hmm. And when they jumped off the ship, I don't see any of them steering any ships or yachts right now. But what I do see is the ones that stayed down, and you being number one that sticks out in my mind, because when that moment hit, you weren't at the peak of your career, like you're at, right? This isn't the peak of your career.
We were in it.
This isn't the peak of your career, but right now it's like you're on the upswing. You know what I'm saying? You're rocking right now. And I think it's going to be a continuous trend. But at the moment, you weren't at your highlight of your career. Mm-hmm. Would have been an easy target. And all I saw out of you was immediate, just straight loyalty. Like, no questions asked. Okay, enemies firing at us. I'm in. I'm all in. You know what I mean? I got your back. It don't matter what's going on. Like, this is who I'm rocking with. This is who we're rolling with. It's not even an option.
Right.
And I just want to say thank you, for your loyalty, and that loyalty, is something that I think is so rare, nowadays, that good things come to people that are loyal, like that. So, how important do you think loyalty is in business? And, how do you find out when people are loyal? How do you instill loyalty into a team?
Loyalty, I agree with you 1,000%, is probably the most important thing to me, because like you said before, I haven't seen a single disloyal person jump ship and rocket anywhere else. Not one ever. And I got to restrain my spirit, because I am so loyal that there are certain things, like almost like a warning, like bring it. Like, if that ever happens again, watch us double, triple, quadruple. It only makes us better. Only makes us better. Like, we just blew up. Like, bring it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, thank you. Like, thank you for that. By the way, we appreciate you. But what I want to talk about with loyalty is, I think to get it, you gotta give it. You know what I mean? And as the leader, I think that we expect immediately our people to be loyal to us first. I think it's the other way around.
Amen.
I think that we have to show loyalty to our people first, and that's why I was always loyal, to you, a lot of different reasons. But I remember when I first reached out to you on Facebook when I was barely an essay, you helped me. I wasn't doing shit. You know what I'm saying? But you helped me. You took time out of your, and you've done that many, many times in increasing capacities. So, I think that, again, to get the loyalty, you got to give the loyalty to your people first before you can expect it,
I'm laughing at you.
I know
you loyal to that chest hair. I know that, bro. You got some chest hair, bro. I see you. You all grown man with that beard and that chest hair. That's why I was smirking at you.
But yeah, you definitely got to give it to get it. And then what you'll find is people they got to be loyal to more than just a person. I like to think of our culture and we've created an entity to where there's loyalty. Like Arias agencies, it's an entity. It's not just one or two or three or four or five people. I think if it was that way, we wouldn't be going to where we're going. You know what I'm saying? In on our team, we've created this entity to where it's like, yeah, they're loyal to me. They're loyal to Travis and Sam, the other MGAs, Christy and all that, but they're loyal to the vision too. And I think that people, number one, have to receive loyalty from you. They'll give it back to you, but they also have to understand that at some point that loyalty, there's going to be a payoff.
Yeah.
So painting that vision and creating that, listen, stick it out no matter. I was posting in our group me this morning some of the income, and I posted their income numbers, and then right next to that I posted 3 or 4 trials and tribulations they had been through in this business.
Oh, wow.
So you look at Kelly Hoffman, who's a girl, she's a GA here in Pittsburgh,
Beast.
On a half week at LDS half the week, made $3,500. And I said, what people don't see is a year ago
without
she couldn't
working.
even, yes, without working, at LDS, hanging out, having drinks, listening to speakers, taking notes, $3,500 for 1 week. 25, 26-year-old girl. What they don't see is a year ago, she couldn't pay for groceries. You know, Aaron Ostrider, same thing. Half a week of work, make $3,000. What they don't see is a year ago, he drove all the way from California on a whim to follow Sam Boyle and the leadership here.
Yeah.
You know, Travis, I could go on. Carrie maxing out her credit cards 2 years ago, drives a Lexus now, made $4,000 last week. You know, so it's loyalty not only to the leader, but it's loyalty to the vision. And if the reason why I bring up all their stories is every leader in our deal has been through so much adversity. You know, Sam Boyle was sleeping on my futon a year ago, 2 hours away, seeing his wife once a month. Some people don't see their wife for 3 days and their relationship falls apart.
Yeah.
You know, he was seeing her once a month.
That's a testimony to his wife, who's the shit.
Grace is a beast.
She is
Gracie is an animal, loyal dog. And you know what's funny? When you look at the people and you look at the leaders and you look at their spouses are just as down to ride too. It infects not only the business,
hand in hand,
but everybody's personal lives too. So I think that having a vision that can bind everybody together and everybody.
How important do you think that it is to have a supportive spouse, and how do you think that could affect things in business?
So supportive. Or so important, rather, to have a supportive spouse. I mean, I think that's your life partner. You know what I mean? And I've seen how a lack of support from a spouse can destroy careers. You know, destroy them. Some of the most talented people getting taken out of the game because their spouse isn't on board. And it's easy to just blame it on the spouse. Like, oh, the husband's a jerk, or the wife, you know, she's terrible. She's always on his bed. What are you doing as the spouse? Like, if you're in business and your wife or husband isn't on board, instead of just blaming it all on them, you got to ask yourself, why is that? And I think that the same way that vision and loyalty is important in business, I think that it's equally as important in a relationship. Because when Geneva first met me, I was still in the money, right? Then everything went wrong to the point where we're negative in the bank accounts. We can't even buy groceries. You know what I'm saying? Like Sundays, like we weren't eating because we didn't get paid till Monday. I think that it's number one, it's loyalty is part of her nature. But number two, she understood the vision and she was bought into the vision, and I had shown her loyalty and she gave it back to me. So the same things that we just talked about having loyalty and vision in business, I think are equally as important in a relationship. They got to know why are you gone
Spouse
every
got to
weekend?
see the vision.
Yeah.
They got to understand
They
why.
got to understand.
Yeah.
You know,
what's in it for them?
Exactly.
What's in it for the family?
Exactly.
No doubt.
You know?
And if you can't sell your spouse, you ain't going to be able to sell the vision to a team of 100 people.
No way.
And their spouses.
No way.
So that's the first sale that I think a person needs to make.
Yeah.
I woke up this morning and you know, we had leadership school. We had executive council, 2 executive councils.
Yeah.
And then got home, went right back to work. I spent a couple hours, you know, with the kids who I missed. Went to gymnastics with them, hung out with them, played with them for a little bit. And I was gassed. You know, I was feeling a little bit under the weather for the last week. And, you know, I went up to sleep at 8 o'clock and hit the sack because I know I had to get up at 5 today. And Natalie came up and she was tired and gave both kids baths, you know, took care of both. I mean, I don't even remember what happened. I remember she was giving them a bath, and then I woke up this morning when my alarm clock went off.
Right.
And I shot her a text, you know, thanking her for doing that.
Right.
You know, I don't know if spouses are appreciative sometimes to take time and stop and say thank you for what this person does that you don't understand. You know, sometimes we can get caught up, and I've been a victim of this, you know, in the past. I was raised in an environment where it was more, you know, nobody was married. You know, not a lot of people in my area were married or stayed married. Very, very male dominated society, you know, where I was at, you know what I mean? Especially in the streets.
Right.
You know, it was like, you know, we ain't even gonna go there. But so it was hard, you know, for me to grasp, and I had to learn from other men, on how, real men, you know, how to do this, which is what I try my best to model for people, not just a business person, but how to roll in life as an imperfect person, but just how to rock as a husband and a father. And it don't mean that you got to be a bitch,
Right.
to do it. And, just having an attitude of gratitude, understanding that without her doing that, I would not be rested today.
Right.
If I had to come home and she's like, listen, bro, you've been gone all freaking week. Now
Kids
your
need
ass is
baths
tired,
and-
dog. You give some baths. You handle this stuff.
Right.
And I would have understood it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel you.
Right.
But she didn't do that.
Right.
And I woke up shot out of a cannon, this morning. And maybe it decreases the length of sickness and illness. Maybe it gave me more energy today to serve others and to
Right.
do what we're doing right now, which over time will elevate not only our family, but other people's, families and situation, all because of that woman's sacrifice. And, so I just like to, to shout out the supportive, a lot of times we people talk about the unsupportive side, that it drains out and drowns out the graces.
Right.
You know what I mean? And the Nats and the Tylers and the Courtneys and the
Yeah.
people, the Jess, the people that are supporting us in this deal and that have supported people in the deal. We had a podcast recently with, with some fighters here, and they're talking about, man, we started 5 o'clock in the morning, and we're going till 9 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? So it don't matter what it is that you're trying to be a champion at. If you want to wear the belt, understand that it ain't just that company. I don't care if it's I'm talking about, I don't care where you're at right now listening to this. It ain't that company. It ain't just that situation. Like, if you have a vision to be the champ, to be the number one, to be at the top, understand your grind is going to have to be different than everybody else's grind. It's not going to be a 9 to 5 immediately. Now we can do some things if we choose to, and go to Napa Prime and
Right.
have some glasses of wine and be at happy hour, and happy as hell at happy hour.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And everybody knows you shaking hands like it's cheers. You know what I mean? But the price ain't cheers. You know what I'm
Nah.
saying? The price is 5-star.
Nah.
And we're there multiple times a week. And that only happens from a grind, from a supportive spouse, from putting in the hours and stuff like that. What do you think that it takes to build a business the way that it needs to be built? And we're always in a building,
Right.
phase, but things change. What do you think it takes from an hours standpoint? If somebody would say, well, Mike, tell me how many hours, it's going to take me a week to build something, special. What does that look like? But then also, what has the return been for you? What
Right.
does it look like? Was it all worth it? I tell people all the time, like, man, I look at my first couple years, what I did, it was crazy.
Right.
It was crazy. People they still tell stories about it.
Right.
Me falling asleep in my car in the parking lot, and I would go back and do it all again.
Right.
Especially now. Then I had no idea. I thought I knew. I had a vision, but I didn't know what it tasted like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Now I know what it tastes like. If I would do it again in a heartbeat if I had to.
Right.
I don't feel like there was mistakes in the grind.
Right.
I would regrind again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To have what we have right now. Talk to us about what you think it takes from how important is sacrifice. What do people need to sacrifice, that whole process, and what's the payoff?
Okay. Love this. And real quick, before I jump into that, I want to touch on something that I noticed and learned from you, and that I noticed and I learned from the people with the best relate, because I think this is so important. I got to get this out.
No.
If you got to, back to the spouses real quick before I jump into that, if you have to lose time with what you sent her a text this morning, whatever area you're lacking in terms of the grind, like, so if you're grinding 100 hours a week, which means that you can't spend that time with your spouse, you need to overcompensate in other areas. Do something creative. This is what I tell my people. If you've never sent flowers before, send flowers. Leave a note when you wake up early. Leave her a note. Shoot her a text. Overcompensate. If you take her to dinner, put your phone down and don't be on Facebook while you're supposed to be spending time together. Overcompensate in other areas to make up. But anyways, to answer your question, I thought that was so important. That's a huge lesson for people to learn. But in terms of what does it take to build a business, And what level of sacrifice does it take? My answer to that question would be everything. Everything. You got to sacrifice in terms of time. I don't know. I never counted hours.
Same.
Because to me, it's not the hours you work, it's what you put into the hours. But I could talk about same thing, you sleeping in a parking lot. I remember running a point. This is one of my favorite stories to tell. I was driving a 2001 Buick LeSabre, and I was running appointments one night, and it was my first week released, and I was at like 5,000. So I knew I had a $2,000, $2,500 paycheck coming, but I hadn't been paid yet. So I was out of gas, and I was driving an hour and a half every single day back and forth to the office. So I was the first one to the office, driving an hour and a half. People 15 minutes away.
Making a note on this.
People 15 minutes away were coming in after me. So I had an hour and a half drive back. There was a blizzard out, and I was almost out of gas. So I pulled into the Best Fitness parking lot in Erie, about 5 minutes from the office, and I had less than a quarter of a tank, and I fell asleep in the back of my car, and I used my gym bag and my pea coat to sleep inside of. And what I would do is when the car got too cold, I'd wake up because I'd be freezing my ass off, and I'd turn the car back on, let it heat back up, turn it back off so I didn't run out of gas. Woke up in the morning, went to the gym, showered, had to sneak into Best Fitness because I didn't have a membership there yet. Snuck into Best Fitness, took a shower, first one in the office the next day. So sacrificing, that's an extreme example. I'm not telling you you're going to have to freeze to death in the back of a Buick in Erie, Pennsylvania, but there's going to be sacrifices, sacrificed relationships, friends that couldn't understand. My girlfriend at the time, we were together 5 or 6 years. She didn't understand the grind, so I had to think about my future family, what I wanted out of life. It wasn't compatible at the time. Had to sacrifice that relationship.
Most people can't do that.
Had to sacrifice that relationship, had to sacrifice friendships, had to say, hey, Mike, we're going out Friday. My ass got to be up at 5 o'clock Saturday morning. My territory's 2 hours away. I got to remember Ray Salmon and I driving to frickin' Menor, Ohio to run appointments on Sundays. He's spending time away from his wife and his kids and his family. And just the hours in the relationships that are worth it will stick it out.
Amen.
But the hours in the relationships you'll sacrifice. The free time you'll sacrifice. The comfort of sitting on your couch you'll sacrifice. But what happens is you get it all back. And I think what's so funny is people think like now, like I can work less now. You can work less now. But we don't. And I think the reason is the results become addicting and the grind becomes fun.
Amen.
It becomes fun.
Amen.
So at the beginning, you're suffering and you're like, dude, there's no end in sight. Like I'm working, I'm up at 5, I'm not going to bed until 11 or 12.
Yeah, understand if you're doing it right, the work that you put in isn't always going to balance out and correlate to immediate pay or immediate gratification right now. It may be I feel like I'm putting in work that, I should be making a couple $100,000 a year, the amount of work that I'm putting in right now.
Right.
Just like a fighter, just like somebody else, like they may be putting in a ton of work right now in the gym all day, but that don't mean that they're necessarily getting that prize fight right now where they're getting tons of money.
Right.
They end up getting tons of money if they make it to that point because they grinded at this point probably harder or as hard as they're grinding at this point. That's just gratification and encourages them to keep on grinding, but they only got the prize payoff because they were grinding for free.
And there's what's great is that I almost think about that time and effort and energy that you're putting in where you're not seeing an immediate payout. There's interest building on that too.
You get it all back.
You get it all back and then some.
All that
and
time.
The interest rate is high as
all
shit.
All that time and money.
But the flip side is the time that you take off and the time that you don't sacrifice. There's interest on that too, and it's negative like a loan. And you end up paying up more later. To whereas if people just understood, if you don't see results year 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5,
Amen.
In year 6 and 7, you're going to live a life that you couldn't even in your wildest dreams even begin to imagine and fathom. The other day I'm driving in my car, and by no means have we arrived in this. By no means this is just the beginning. But I was thinking like, I can't believe life right now. Can't believe it. So thankful, so grateful. And every ounce of it, every minute of pain, every sacrifice, every hour, every minute, every relationship, every adversity, like you said before, I'd do it 3 more times. I'd do it again. Company, for some crazy reason, life insurance is illegal tomorrow, and all this other, but who knows what happens, another world war, I'd rebuild it again. I'd do it again and again and again and again and again, because the reward is so much more gratifying. So much more gratifying than the pain was and the sacrifice was.
Amen. So what would you tell people out there that are in that grind phase, in that focus phase where their payoff isn't here right now yet? They're either going through some adversities, or they're going through the grind, the sacrifices, but it's not here for them yet. What encouragement could you give those people if they're not already encouraged, which I'm sure they are? What encouragement would you give those people?
Just keep going. Just, it's going to pay off. Number one, I promise you it's going to pay off. There's whether you believe in God or karma or doesn't matter what you believe in. Whatever you put in, you're going to get back out at some point. And it's like, it's like the story of the bamboo tree, and just any tree, dude. I can't plant an acorn out back and go out and say, even 6 months later, where's my giant ass tree? It takes time, But one acorn, think about how many acorns fall off one tree. You know what I'm saying? No, so you got to wait for that and understand that the returns, and that's building interest. You're going to get the returns back, and just whatever your vision has to be compelling, and you got to keep it. I think where people lose focus is they start looking too much at the adversity. And they stop looking at their goals and their vision. And what happens is when you're just in your head's all in the adversity and in the pain of the process, and you're not reminding yourself of why you're doing it. Yes. I'm talking about not once a week, not once a month. I'm talking about daily. You need to look at your goals and your vision. So have that vision, and then set benchmarks for yourself, little goals that you can achieve, little action items that you can achieve in the process that will provide you little spurts of encouragement, to where I know I'm not where I need to be yet, and I know this is going on, but I got this, and this done. Or this week, this is the number. Maybe you're not a 50,000 a month producer, but you wrote 5,000 this week. That's the first time you've written 5,000. Let's go. That's not where you want to be yet, but if you got to have those little goals. And like I said, you got to revisit your vision and remind yourself of your why daily, every day.
Love it.
Every day.
Well, thanks for everything that you do, for the agency. You're reliable, you're trustworthy, you're dependable, and you got funny looking eyes that make me laugh every time I start looking at you. Russ, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Grindcast. Get ready, it's a new day.
Let's go.
Count money, man. Stack riches. Trying told him I'm a beast, bud.